Hi everyone. The TD Ottawa Jazz Festival would like nothing more than to welcome you to our main stage at Confederation Park, downtown Ottawa. That's our home. But as we all know, that's not going to happen. So we've got the next best thing and are bringing the music to you through a series called Tenacity, which will unfold every day for the next 10 days and will feature some of the brightest and most unique artists from all over the world. You'll get to meet and hear artists from Berlin, New York, Boston, Vancouver, Ottawa, Serbia, and other places. This series is different. This series is jazz today. It's vibrant, courageous, tenacious, and masterfully original. Thanks for joining us. This is Jazz in 2020.
Music brings us together even when we're apart. That's why we're so proud to support Canadian music through events like the TD Ottawa Jazz Festival. It's just one more way that the TD Ready commitment is building a more inclusive tomorrow. Enjoy the show.
Better if I unmute my audio. Hi everybody, my name's Dan Tepfer. I'm coming to you from Brooklyn, New York, from my apartment, and I'm really proud and honored to be part of the Ottawa Jazz Festival this summer, even if it's virtual. Without further ado, let's please welcome the great jazz journalist, James Hale.
Thanks, Dan. Good evening once again, and welcome to OLG Chats. I'm James Hale from Downbeat Magazine, and each day of Tenacity, I'll be talking to some of the incredible improvising artists who'll be sharing their music with us. And tonight, as you've seen, we're going live to Brooklyn to talk to Dan Tepfer and hear him perform his Natural Machines project with a special guest appearance by Peter Kenkura. And we invite you to join in tonight by asking questions in the comments section of the stream you're watching, and hopefully we'll be able to get to some of those. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you so much, James.
Hey, so I want to ask you, you've been playing piano since the age of 6, and I was wondering if you've always naturally understood the connection between music and mathematics. Was it always just sort of clear in your mind from the time you started playing?
I remember hearing when I was a really little kid that Mozart was into math. I don't even know if that's exactly true that he was into math, but it's pretty obvious that his brain thought in a very logical way. And that suddenly opened a door to me. It opened the door to me that music isn't just this surface that we all know and love, which is that it's expressive and is emotional and can get you lost and can make you travel, but that there's also this underlying structure, something to do with logic and math.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know some people who play from a young age hate the P word, prodigy, but what was your sort of entree into the keyboard? I mean, did you just start playing with it, or did you hear things by ear that you wanted to figure out, or what was your route in?
So my grandfather was a jazz pianist on the West Coast. His name was Chuck Ruff, and my mom was an opera singer. She sang in the Paris Opera Chorus for a long time. So music was always all around me, and not only that, but it was really clear to me that there was this thing called improvisation. There's this thing where you could sit down and make music up. So somehow that came very naturally to me. I think it's probably enough to just plant that in the mind of a young child that it's even possible that you're allowed to make music up, and they'll probably start doing it right away. In my case, I started classical piano lessons when I was 6, and I would learn what I was told with a little bit of resistance, but I spent unbelievable amounts of time improvising. And my teacher would kind of say, no, don't do that. And so I said, okay, fine, I won't show you anymore, but I'm definitely going to keep doing it.
Yeah. It sounds like a few other stories I've heard. Yeah. So, I mean, you have some really deep family roots in both music and science. So, what was the balance like when you were a kid in France? I mean, did you have an active music career? Were you performing, or were you more scholastic when you were a child?
Yeah, I went a pretty normal route. I was, I think, in some ways fortunate to have parents who were not stage parents. They didn't really push me to follow a path, of that would be more intense than most kids. I just went to normal school and went to the normal conservatory in Paris, and I think the thing that made it a little different for me is that we didn't have a TV, and so basically, and also I'm an only child, so basically all my spare time I would spend improvising at the piano.
Hmm. Now, how did you balance the improvisation versus the conservatory study? Because I mean, I've heard from other people as well that it's a bit of push and pull there, and it's kind of difficult to find the balance between those two things.
Yeah, for me, somehow it wasn't hard to find the balance at all. My thing was always jazz. My thing was improvisation. For some reason, even as a small child, I completely defined myself as a jazz improviser, probably because of my grandfather.
Sure.
And so I would do the classical stuff kind of in the same way that I would do my schoolwork. I do it a lot at the last minute. I would be resistant to it. I'd be resistant to being told what to do. And then I just spend most of my time improvising, and that was clearly the thing that defined me.
Right. Right. So when you decided to study astrophysics, was it always with the idea that, music was going to be your career, and this is just something you were doing, or did you consider a science career at that point? And I'm thinking of others with similar backgrounds like Vijay Iyer and Rudresh Thapa, who kind of wavered between what career path they were going to follow until suddenly they decided. What was your path?
Yeah, I definitely knew that music would always be a huge part of my life. But there was this question about whether I was going to do it professionally. I mean, I have musicians in my family, so we all know it's not an easy life. So my idea was to kind of do a double degree, but I ended up going to the University of Edinburgh, where you can't do double degrees. So I studied astrophysics and did music on the side, figuring that would be more realistic than doing music and astrophysics on the side. And it was clear to me probably a year in, because I was playing all the time on the jazz scene there, and just spending tons of time playing piano. It was clear to me that I had to try. I had to try to be a professional musician and see what would happen.
So I should tell you about my fantasy jazz ensemble, because
Okay.
this is good. So this is like all musicians who have significant science backgrounds, like Danny Zeitlin, the Moutin
Yeah.
brothers from
Yeah.
France, Vijay,
Yeah.
Rudresh, and you. Imagine the dressing room talk. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, I've actually hung out quite a bit with the Moutin brothers. They have advanced math degrees.
Yeah.
There's also Jean-Michel Pilk,
That's right.
of course.
That's right. A lot of pianists in there. You're gonna have to,
Yeah, and I think Herbie Hancock has a degree in electrical engineering,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Gotta take turns
And
on
so does
keyboard.
Danilo Perez.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. So, hey, I want to take a big sidestep if you don't mind, and let's talk about Lee Konitz for a minute. We lost
Yeah,
we lost him
great.
recently in the midst of the pandemic, and with so many people passing, I don't think it he got the due that he deserved. I just want to maybe ask you to reflect a bit about what it was like to work with Lee, and what he passed on to you.
Wow, well, Lee has been, without doubt, the strongest musical influence I've had, because not only was he, as you know, a complete force of nature, just an incredible influence on countless musicians, but I got to know him really well. I got to play with him for 12 years, and became close friends with him. There was, for some reason, we really hit it off on both a personal and a musical basis. And I think the thing that I learned most of all about Lee is that, it's not worth ever bullshitting. If you're going to be an artist, and I think even just a human being, you got to speak your truth. And that's one of the things that made Lee so phenomenally special, is that you could feel that every note he played and every word he said was really sincerely meant from the heart. So that, I think, is probably the biggest thing I take away from Lee is this radical commitment to truth. And that's something that I'm going to try to carry on in my life. And of course, there are many other things, many details about how he approached music, but that would be the top one.
Yeah. Now, I've talked to Matt Wilson a bit about playing with Lee, and I mean, famously, Lee wouldn't call tunes on the bandstand. Did you guys have a shorthand for what the set list was going to look like, or truly was he just like, I'm going to start playing and you got to catch up?
Oh yeah, truly, yeah. There are only a couple moments I can remember where we did make a set list. There are situations, very high-profile situations where we're going to just play one or two tunes, and so he would want to decide what we were playing ahead of time. But in every other situation, including like a 2,000-seat hall in Japan or big situations, he would just start playing, and it was your job to catch on to what he was playing just based on the harmonies, because he wouldn't even really quote the melody. But after playing with him for, maybe 5-6 years, I started to be pretty good at that.
Yeah, I guess you either would or you wouldn't have a job.
Yeah. It gets pretty embarrassing if you're sitting there and you're never playing the piano.
I'll just lay out. It's okay.
Yeah.
So let's turn back to the subject at hand tonight. What was the genesis for the Natural Machines project? How did it come to be?
So, as you know, I've been a science nerd since I was a kid, and it's always come very naturally to me to think about music from this kind of logical, I would say, algorithmic perspective. And slowly over the years, especially studying the music of Bach, I realized that the music that I love lives at kind of the intersection of the algorithmic and the spiritual. Music that's supported by strong structure and rules, but that also leaves room for expression and intuition. And I started programming computers when I was a kid, actually, probably when I was 9 or 10. Started writing rudimentary programs on an early Mac Plus. And I wrote a lot of a lot of visual stuff. Like I wrote my own 3D renderer and just programs that would make pretty pictures. But it didn't really occur to me to write programs that would make music until I was well into my 20s, and I started writing programs to help me do certain kind of ear training exercises or time exercises. And in my late 20s, it suddenly dawned on me, oh wait, you could actually write a program that, for example, makes 12-tone music or something like that. Any music that's guided by rules, you could write programs to do that. And I experimented with that a bit, but I was never satisfied because the music felt very rigid. And it's not until I went into the Yamaha showroom one day, which is this space in Manhattan, and sat down at a Yamaha disclavier, which is this instrument right here, that's a modern-day player piano. It's able to play all by itself if you send it commands. It's not until I sat down at one of those, played, and then had the computer respond to me on the same instrument that I got super excited about this intersection of music and code, because suddenly the music felt really organic and alive to me.
There's a recent article in Jazz Times pointed out you've been one of the few musicians who have remained pretty busy during the lockdown because of your ability to play these online shows. I was wondering, has Natural Machines evolved more during this time because you've had so much time to devote to it, or was it lockdown before then?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's like a certain iteration of Natural Machines that got kind of crystallized because I put this record out. I put this record out last year in early 2019 as a CD, and then actually before that, in late 2018, I put it out as a YouTube playlist, so a collection of 11 videos. But I had all these other ideas that didn't make it onto the record, and I've been wanting to keep developing them. And so, as you point out, I've been doing these Monday live streams at 2 p.m. New York time every Monday from my place. And what I've been using those as is an opportunity, is kind of like a deadline to get these new ideas together that I've been wanting to experiment with for a long time. So, one of them that I just tried out for the first time on Monday was kind of turning my piano into a drum set.
Yeah, I saw some of that.
Preparing the piano, like putting stuff in the strings, and then writing programs that generate rhythms according to rules. that's something I've been wanting to do for years. And a couple weeks prior, I did this thing where I have this ring I can wear on my finger, and I can control various aspects of the music with that. So, it's actually been a really creative period for me. I mean, I really miss hugging my fellow musicians, but I would say that thanks to the fact that I'm kind of a techie guy, it's been an easier period for me creatively than probably for a lot of my friends.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering if we've received any comments or questions from the audience at this point.
James Richardson says, I'm curious what he thinks of the Paris jazz scene. Yeah, that's a great question. I grew up in Paris, as maybe James knows, and was really bathed in the Paris jazz scene growing up. And what I would say about it is that it keeps changing. Like every jazz scene everywhere, it keeps changing. And I think the presence of the internet makes it change even faster. I'm thinking about there's so much interesting music coming out of Paris now. I'm thinking, for example, this drummer who's I think my age or younger, named Anne Passeo. She's a really good drummer, and actually she played in my trio for maybe 3 or 4 years when I would tour in Europe. And she can swing and she can play great, but actually she's been developing this type of music that's kind of maybe a type of fusion, and it's really cool. I just love it when people take the tools of jazz and make new things with those tools, because that's ultimately what Charlie Parker did too. He took the tools of swing music and made bebop, and that's what jazz musicians have done all throughout the history of jazz, the ones that have invented the next phase in the history. And so I see a lot of that happening in Paris. I think people are pretty open to new ideas, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Let's see. Carol McGoffin, who often joins my Monday live streams, says, it's fun to hear about you as an improvising kid. Thank you. And Peter Kankura says, what are we about to hear and see? Okay.
If Peter doesn't know, we're in trouble.
Yeah. We're about to see my program Natural Machines in this virtual form, and I'm really excited to play it for you. Maybe we should jump right in.
Yeah, we're going to move to the music, and I just want to remind people that we'll be back along with Peter Kankura after the performance to chat a bit more about what we heard. So audience members can continue to put comments under the stream, and we'll get to those. Okay, Dan, back to you.
Thanks so much, James. Talk to you later. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to play some of this music from this album, Natural Machines, and I want you to bear in mind that everything I'm going to do is free improvisation. Okay, nothing has been planned ahead in terms of what I'm going to be playing. Just the way the pieces work has been planned, because I've written these programs that play with me. And I've also written programs that generate a visual representation of the music as it's happening. So for example, just for a second, I'll walk you through this. If I play this note here, you see that visualization that came up right there? That first note is what I played. The one in the foreground that's in blue, that's what I played. And the one in the background, the yellow one, that's what the computer played in response. And you can see that on the keyboard too. Okay? And so high notes are at the top of the screen and low notes at the bottom. And that's basically all you need to know for this one. I've actually written different visualizations for each one because I'm trying to show what's happening visually. But here we go. I'm gonna dive right in with this first piece. This is called Canon at the Octave. Thank you so much for listening today. I can't tell you what a difference it makes to be playing for people. And it really inspires me every time. I started with this algorithm I wrote called Canon at the Octave Metric Mod, and it's one where the computer reacts an octave away from what I play, and also I'm doing these metric modulations, like dividing the rhythm up, and then going with that new division. After that, I played inversion, which is an algorithm where the computer turns everything I play upside down. And the one I just played is called tremolo, because it's all about getting this amazing tremolo sound, this rapid note repetition from the piano that would be so hard to get any other way. I'm going to see if anybody has asked any questions. If anybody has questions about what I'm doing right now, please post them in the comments. I'm looking at the Facebook. If you're on YouTube, I can't see your comments there. Or maybe I can. Maybe I can open that too. Let's see. Let's see if I can do that. Yeah, there it is. Let's see if anybody's asking questions on YouTube. There they are. R. Mutt says, sounds like a wonderful musical game of chess. Yeah, maybe it is. And Patricia H. says, wonderful, I love seeing the music as live art. Thank you so much. So there's a reason why I'm reading these comments. It's not just for fun. It's also because I want you guys to understand that I'm really playing live right now. Everything that's happening right now is completely live. I'm doing it as you hear it, or a few seconds before. And I think that's so important to reclaim that live experience right now. And Adi Kajo says, that's a great idea, projecting the graphics onto our canopy. Well, if you have a canopy to project onto, I will come when all this is over, and I will project onto your canopy, whatever that means. Okay, if anybody has any questions about this, please post them here and I will look at them. I'm back on Facebook now. Abby Wolf says, beautiful improv and visually stunning, raises the bar on visual live performance. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Natural Machines is something that I worked on, that I'm still working on, but it's like 8 or 9 years of work. So yeah, it's fun to be presenting it for you today. I'm gonna keep playing. This next one is called Intervals, and I'm not gonna say too much about it. In terms of visualization, high notes are high on the screen, low notes are low on the screen, and time goes by this way. And because there's a lot of layers to this algorithm, the computer reacts in these multiple layers. Each layer is color-coded in a different color. But you can always tell what I'm playing because they're the shiny blue notes. Okay, here we go. This is really fun, you guys. Thank you for letting me play for you. Yeah. Let's see if we have any comments. Well, first of all, I should tell you what I just played. So that first piece of the last three, and these aren't pieces, these are algorithms. You know, I'm doing free improvisation here with an algorithm that I've written. And so that first one was called Intervals. It's all about generating these chains of intervals, these brilliant chains of intervals. That second one is called Looper, and it's my attempt to make something that's a little bit like a guitar looping pedal, but because I'm doing it on this instrument, it's like pretty different. And that last one I call Demonic March. It's a canon at the minor ninth, most dissonant interval there is. So it just goes in this pretty out there place that I really enjoy being in. Let's see if anybody asks any questions. Linda Dodd says, outstanding and intriguing. Thank you very much. Glad you're intrigued. Morton Feldman, the composer, he said there are two types of people in the world. There are people who are attracted to what they know, and there are people who are attracted to what they don't know. If you're intrigued by this, you're probably in the second category. Mark Dregas says, or Dregas, says, some of the most mesmerizing show visuals I've ever seen. Unbelievably creative. We'll definitely look into incorporating some of this in my math classes. Great. Well, as I mentioned, the entire album of Natural Machines is on YouTube. In fact, if you go to dantepfer.com/natural machines, it'll take you right to the YouTube playlist, or you can just search for Dan Tepfer Natural Machines on YouTube. André Gagne, I guess, André Gagne, probably a French name, says, comment just disappeared. Well, let's see if I can find it again. You know this is really live because I can't even read the comments. Some of the most, no, where is he? Andre, there he is. This is so amazing, and yes, as one other said, would be great live with the graphics projected on big screen. Yeah, I mean, that's been a super fun way of performing this project. Ever since the album came out about a year ago, I've performed it live. I performed it at the Ottawa Winter Jazz Fest with a big screen behind me, and we brought in a Yamaha Disclavier especially for the concert. I've played it in a planetarium, which was incredible, projecting these graphics all over the planetarium dome. I've played it in like huge outdoor stages with like a gigantic screen behind me, or several big screens. I played it in Azerbaijan in the big concert hall there, where they were projecting on the entire hall, and it's super fun having this visual element to the music. It's my first time making something that has visuals. So I have something very, very special right now that I want to do. The director of the Ottawa Jazz Festival happens to be an old friend of mine. We went to school together. He's an incredible musician. We actually used to play together a lot when I was at the New England Conservatory, when we were both at the New England Conservatory. We've, kind of haven't seen each other so much in more recent years, but when he asked me to do this today, I asked myself, is there some way that I can incorporate him into the proceedings today? And I came up with a way. So let me bring Peter on. Hopefully he's ready to be here. Hold on just a second. I need to turn some sound off. There we go. And here we go. There he is. There's Peter. Peter Kankura, everybody. I can hear your applause, your virtual applause.
And hey, everyone.
Peter, what are we doing? Do you want to explain to people what we're doing?
Well, can you hear me okay when I'm talking like this?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. What you've rigged up is really fun way to interact with your piano. So what I have is this keyboard, which is a MIDI controller, and I'm sending, every time I press a key on this, I send a signal to your piano in Brooklyn, and it plays, and then I hear it back in my headphones, and I'm going to improvise along with it.
So
that's basic gist of it.
There seems to be some kind of echo on my voice right now. I wonder if could it be coming from you?
I don't think so. All my other things are on mute.
Okay. Well, it's okay, because we're just going to be listening to you right now.
Okay.
So let me be a little more specific about what Peter just said. I wrote this. This is kind of not very good sounding, is it? Let's see if I can do something about this. Oh, here we go. Why don't I'll do that. There we go. Okay, so you guys can't hear Peter right now, but while I'm talking, I'll do that. So, the way this is working is that we've set up a MIDI connection between where Peter is in Ottawa and where I am in Brooklyn. So what this means is that when he plays notes on that little keyboard there, they're actually sent to my computer here in Brooklyn immediately. And I've written this program. The idea of it is to get people to improvise with things that they never would have expected before. You know, it's to get people to have to respond to something in the moment, because that's what gets me really excited about improvisers. And Peter's a really great improviser, so he's able to do this. It's when something unexpected is thrown at them, and then they can just react. And that's when you can really see their soul, when you can really hear their soul. So I don't want to explain this program too much, but basically Peter can send notes for my piano to play, and it's going to play those notes, and then when he presses some of the buttons on the keyboard, those notes get transformed by my program. And he's just going to be improvising with this, playing along with it, and I'm pretty excited to hear what he does with this. So yeah, let's go for it. Oh, try it again. Yeah, Peter. Yeah, beautiful, man.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Could do that for hours.
It sounded really fresh.
I was working on it while you were playing.
Yeah, totally. Beautiful, man. Yeah, I loved it. It's remember when we were at NEC, we used to do those like 15-minute free improvisations?
Oh yeah, we did one at behind Jordan Hall. I remember we recorded that. That's probably lives somewhere.
Yeah, I think I probably have that on a very old hard drive somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. This was like an amazing interlude.
For sure.
Grace Chu says, Peter is quaking your disc clavier. Totally true. Carol McGoffin says, wild, so different and new. Thank you, Carol. Let's see if there are any questions about this. James Richardson says, my mind is blown. Awesome. love it when we can affect you guys, because that's what we're here for. Well, Peter, thanks again so much. I think I'm going to dive back into a few more pieces.
Sounds good.
And we're going to come back at the end and get to talk a little bit more.
All right. I'll see you in a little bit.
See you in a little bit, Peter. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Woo! All right. What are we going to do now? Well, I have a couple more algorithms from natural machines for you. This next one is like really dear to my heart. It's called Triad Sculpture, and it comes from this idea that's very ancient, something that Pythagoras, the ancient Greek mathematician, came up with. It's this idea that tones that sound good together, their frequencies are related by whole numbers. Okay? So when we talk about tones that sound good together, we're talking about tones that sound like they're in harmony, right? That they work together somehow. And it turns out that if, for example, this note is vibrating at, X frequency, then this note is vibrating at twice that frequency. That's a ratio. That's a ratio of 1 to 2. And these two notes, in the time that the bottom one vibrates twice, the upper one vibrates 3 times. It's a relationship of 2 to 3. These two, it's 4 to 5. Okay, you get the drift. Like these sounds that we're so used to hearing together, there's actually a real mathematical reason why they sound so good together. It's because they're actually resonating together in a rhythmic way. Like this, that's a relationship of 2 to 3. So that's this rhythm. Right? This, that's a relationship of 4 to 5. So that's this rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. That's actually the same thing. If you recorded what I just played and sped it up a lot, you'd get that. So the point is, there's this structure behind what we perceive as harmony. And I wanted to represent that visually. I wanted to make images that show that. And so what I've done is I've mapped each one of these ratios onto the 3 dimensions of 3 dimensions of the 3 dimensions. Each one of the 3 dimensions of the 3 dimensions. And you'll see these harmonies, everything I play in my left hand will get transferred into a figure in real time that represents the sound you're hearing visually. And you'll see, to me, they're just incredibly beautiful. So I hope you enjoy this. This is called Triad Sculpture. So that was Triad Sculpture. I put my earphones on because this is the only one of these algorithms I've written for natural machines where the piano actually generates an artificial sound that's outside of just playing the piano. It was generating that kind of organ-like tone that was actually a direct expression of the ratios, of the harmonic ratios that you were seeing. So when you saw one of those figures, the sound that the computer was making was exactly those harmonic relationships, which is a little bit different from the kind of harmonic relationships you have in a piano itself, because the piano is tuned in equal temperament, which is a whole other way of tuning things. In any case, you may have noticed that sometimes the graphics were slowing down there. That's because it's so hot here that my computer's struggling to keep up, believe it or not. David Mason has a question. He says, amazing, Dan. When the algorithms are playing back, do you ever find you are wanting to use the same keys at the same time? What other ways do you find yourself reacting to your programs? That's a great question, because I've been playing with these algorithms for quite some time now. And it was easy at first to kind of like fall into a little bit of a rut with each algorithm, you know, where I would kind of find something that I thought sounded good, and so then I'd go back to that thing. And my big challenge over the years of getting deeper and deeper into this approach has been to keep it fresh for myself. And the way I keep it fresh is I have to think of the computer as like another person that I'm playing with. In the same way that when I played with Lee Konitz, if I ever stopped listening really hard to each note that he was playing, to each decision he was making, all the music would fall apart, and Lee would hate playing with me. In the same way that that is true, I have to listen to what the computer is playing the same way, just as if it were the first time that I were interacting with it. And then I find that I can really get lost in it anew every time and find new places to go. It's so fun for me. I hope you can feel that. Let's see if there are any other questions. I'm going to look at the YouTube comments. Patricia says, brilliant. Yeah, let's see. I think I'm missing the end of these comments here. It doesn't look like we have questions, but lots of really nice comments. Gavin McClintock says, yay, Peter. Great. I'm glad you guys enjoyed Peter Kankura's appearance. Okay, well, I want to say a big thank you to some of the people who made this possible today. I want to say a big thank you to Peter Kankura, not only for inviting me to play on the Ottawa Winter Jazz Fest, but for bringing me back for this virtual Jazz Fest. I want to say thank you to Peter for playing also today. I want to say thank you to James Hale for his great writing in general and for hosting this live stream. I definitely want to say a big thank you to some of the people on the technical staff that made this possible, in particular Sam Hindle and Julian Selady, both of whom were instrumental in making this come together the way it did. So I'm going to play one last one for you today. Oh, and before I do, I wanted to mention that on Friday, this Friday, June 26th, at 3 p.m. New York time, I'm gonna be doing a very special concert. I'm using this cutting-edge software called Jacktrip to play real-time duets with people who live near me. You can't do it with people who live like in Ottawa to New York. That's too far. But for people who live, you know, within 100 miles of you, you can actually get the latency low enough to play duets. And so I'm going to be doing that this Friday with one of the greatest bassists out there, Linda Mahan-O. You may know her as Linda O. Her full name is Linda Mahan-O, and she's been the bassist in the Pat Metheny Quartet for some years now, and she's just an unbelievable musician. And we're doing a duo concert. It's a concert that we're actually selling tickets to. So if you're interested, they're $5 tickets, and they are right here. Just go to dantepfer.com/tix, T-I-X, and you can get a pass to this live stream. And if you can't watch at 3 p.m. Friday, you can still get the link to the live stream and watch it later whenever you want. So I hope some of you will join us for that. That's this Friday with Linda O. And I'm going to play one last one for you today. This is one of my very favorites. It's called Constant Motion. And I'll be right back after that. So that was it. A selection of pieces from Natural Machines. There's actually others. For example, the last track on the record is called Fractal Tree, and I don't have time to do that for you guys today, but it's an algorithm where all the music is generated by a fractal, which is one of these amazing mathematical objects that I love a lot. I'm going to bring back James Hale and Peter Kankura. Just give me 1 second here. And here they are.
Hey.
Hi, guys.
Hey. Man, that was something else. It's hard to know where to start, but well, Dan, let me ask you kind of a nerdy question that popped into my head during the first piece.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about doing duets with Bill Frisell? I was just thinking that has the potential to be pretty multidimensional considering the way he manipulates loops and delays.
Yeah, I mean, Bill is one of my favorite musicians ever, and I would absolutely love to play with him. I know him. I played a duo concert with Paul Motion, the great drummer Paul Motion, years ago, and Bill came and was super kind to me. But we haven't had a chance to play together yet, but I would absolutely love to. Yeah, Bill's incredible.
The other thing that occurred to me while I was watching was how Cecil Taylor would have loved the visual and theatrical aspects of that. It was dance at some points, man.
Oh, thank you so much, James.
We have a few questions that came in. A question came in from Abby Wolf about the kind of piano you're playing. You touched on the Yamaha Disclaver in our pre-show chat, but maybe you could just describe it in a bit more detail and how it actually works.
Yeah, so this is a pretty remarkable instrument. And what's interesting about it is that you often see it used in situations where in many ways it's not shining to its full potential. You might see one of these in the corner of an airport or a hotel, kind of just playing all by itself, playing some music all by itself. But the amazing thing about these instruments, these are called Yamaha Disclaviers, and they're basically modern day player pianos, is that they can take real-time commands. You can just say, play a C right now, and it'll play the C. And you can say specifically, play it this loud, and it'll play it that loud. So they're pretty remarkable.
Another audience question. Samuel asked if it would be possible to do the same kind of thing with a guitar or a saxophone, and I'm assuming he means doing it through directly to software rather than like through a MIDI into the piano.
So the piano in many ways is kind of the perfect instrument for this, because when you play a note on the piano, you can describe exactly what's happening in very few data points. You know, you can say it was this note that was struck at this time, this loud. And it doesn't matter if your fingers were fat or if you ate a certain thing for breakfast, that fully describes the sound that you played at the piano. Most other instruments are a lot more complicated than that. You know, even guitar, even though it has frets, you can bend the notes, the type of pick you use, and you know, if you're playing with your fingers, all those things make a big difference to the sound. Same with something like saxophone is even more complicated because the shape of your larynx really changes the sound, how you're using your mouth to form the sound with your lips and your breath and all that. So there's like this infinite amount of detail in those types of instruments. So it'd be a lot harder to do this. But if you do this, but you could do something like this with a MIDI guitar. It'd be a lot harder to do with a saxophone, but you can do it with an iwi. Sure, yeah. You know, the electronic wind instrument. In fact, the great saxophonist Dana Stevens, and I tried it a while ago. He came over with his iwi and had my piano responding in real time to what he was playing.
Cool. And one last one. Paul asked, what language do you use to program the software, and how does it interface with the piano? We're going really nerdy now.
Yeah, that's pretty nerdy. I like to use an open source coding environment called Super Collider to write my music stuff. I really like it and I recommend it. It's got a little bit of a steep learning curve, but it is a really nice piece of software that's been around since the mid-90s. And the visuals I code in an environment called processing, which is kind of oriented towards visual programming. And actually, I've been doing a whole VR aspect to this project where, for some of my concerts, the audience gets Google Cardboard viewers, and they stick their phones in there and connect to my Wi-Fi network and download my app. And in real time, you are suddenly in a virtual reality environment where all these shapes that you've been seeing on the screen tonight actually appear as three-dimensional shapes, and they're all around you, and you can look around at them. And that stuff I code in an environment called Unity.
Okay. And I had a question. I was wondering, what other applications might be possible for these programs you're writing for the instrument? I mean, it seems to me like it has enormous potential for teaching or practicing.
Yeah, I think anytime you introduce a new tool, there's tons of potential. And it often takes a long time for people to figure out what the potential is exactly. But yeah, you're right. That there's so much that you can do with this that you can't do without it.
Peter, beyond the challenge of improvising remotely, which we're all taking, like second nature now after the last few days. How did you determine what you wanted to contribute, and how the interplay with what you were putting into Dan's piano would go?
I mean, it's funny. Dan gave me a couple of chances to kind of mess around with the piano, of course, which has to be done online over the last couple of days. And I mean, essentially, I'm just trying to make melodies and trying to give it shape and try to tell a story. Within the parameters, I really had to think about what would work well, what could create sort of the tension and resolution that comes with a story, considering that the piano, every time I would trigger a note, it would play kind of sustained in a way, or or I don't know how you would call it, Dan. Not really a tremolo, right? But
Yeah, it's kind of like a tremolo because the note gets repeated pretty quickly.
yeah. And then I love the simplicity of it, where the keys at the top of the piano were move one note at a time, up or down, a semitone, and the third note just takes away notes. So it's a bit of a split brain kind of exercise, but it's really fascinating. I've actually been exploring just playing with drones and how that relates to the saxophone, since it's a monophonic instrument. And so I've really fallen back in love with that, especially during COVID when I'm not playing with anybody. So a drone is the next best thing. So this is kind of a continuation of that exploration in a way. But I loved it. I could do that for hours.
Man, I got to get you like a version of that program so you can do it at home.
That'd be amazing. That'd be great.
Peter, I'm really going to put you on the spot and ask you, especially since you've known Dan for so long, as a musician, what was your reaction to Natural Machines the first time you encountered it? And, did it, I mean, we're just talking about them, but what kind of possibilities did it open up in your head for what you could do with it?
I mean, I have to say, Dan, I knew you've been working on this for a few years, but it's not until I saw it really live at the Winter Jazz Fest here in Ottawa that I was really blown away, and I love how I really love how it fits in with it kind of breaks everything down. It breaks music from a math point down to its simplest forms, and that's just so inspiring and enlightening, and so anything like that, I don't tend to explore that kind of thing enough in a scientific or mathematical level, but I do in a spiritual level a lot. I always think about how to simplify things to get the most meaning across. And I do have my, of course, things that I have figured out that I know work, but it's really inspiring to hear you, Dan, do this in a way that I can relate to it, and I see everybody else relate to it. It's really inspiring.
Man, thank you so much.
Dan, do we have any?
I love that idea of simplifying.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions left on the table that we haven't addressed so far?
I saw one question here. Karen, uh, wait, who was it? Yeah, Joyce Glasgow asked, how do the visuals appear in the air? They are all around you. That's been one of the interesting things about this period. If you had asked me 3 months ago if I'd be able to overlay the graphics from natural machines in real time over what I'm playing, I would have been like, no, man, that's like, you got to have a TV studio to do that, you know? But necessity is the mother of invention. And I'm just using a little HDMI switcher that's actually able to take the output from natural machines, and the parts that are black, it makes those parts transparent. So the image of me behind it comes through the image. It's actually very simple, but it makes a big difference. You know, like the first few live streams I did where I was using the natural machine stuff, I just had the graphics like in a little box, the way you guys are right now. But to be able to really integrate them into the image of me playing the piano is much cooler, I think.
Oh yeah, it was gorgeous. All right, we're gonna say good night and thank you so much, Dan Tepfer. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. I'm sure. Well, just judging from the audience reaction, they did too. So thank you so much, sir, and thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
And that's it from Brooklyn and Ottawa tonight. We really hope you've enjoyed this Tenacity presentation, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for more. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're going to feature a very special performance by Juno and Felix Award-winning vocalist Eliza P. You really won't want to miss that. And that's all for this evening. I'm James Hale. Stay cool, keep supporting the music, and good night.
Thanks so much, James. Bye-bye.
Bye.